This is Sala with Drive-thru Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on another episode. I'm grateful for your support and all the wonderful emails you guys send me. Thank you guys for sharing your journey with me. It was always very humbling. All right, so I wanted to kind of talk about a couple of things that I think are pretty important for us in our milestone as we're working on ourselves. Because we're human and we have so many needs, human needs, emotional needs, physical needs, we really need to understand how hobbies play an important role in fulfilling this growth in our lifespan. As you know, we are all gifted in many ways with different things that we enjoy doing. If I ask a person what kind of hobbies do they have, they really start making excuses nowadays. I'm too busy. I don't have enough money to have a hobby. I don't have time. I have 4 children. I have a new baby, things like that. And I get those. I definitely get those. I've been through all of them. And I can tell you this, that when I don't participate in this extra stimulation we call hobbies, I feel not as attended to, believe it or not. So first I want us to understand that hobbies really work an important part of our emotional brain and our logical brain as well. So we've got the left and right hemisphere, and when we work a hobby, a lot of the times we're really stimulating a lot more integration, whole brain integration within our brain, than if we were just to do one area. Let's say my work only requires me to be more logical, then the creative part of me gets really balanced out when I'm into my hobby and I'm doing that. And so I have more of the creative and the logical side working together, or the left and right hemisphere working together. Why do we want that? Because it leads to a fulfilling life. There are so many benefits, and I want to talk about them a little bit, why we need to have a hobby. And if I can tell you about my experience as a therapist, when I see people that are doing very well and that are adapting to life very well and aging and healing properly, most of the time they have hobbies of interest. They have things that they do, and things that doesn't just imply distraction, but they're an actual hobby. And I'll explain distraction. I think distraction is a way that we maybe can work on the computer a lot or play video games. Those are distractions. I don't really consider those as much as a hobby. Like watching Netflix, binging Netflix, or what else can be distraction? Playing a game on my phone. All of those are a form of distraction. They're mindless. I'm not really working with myself consciously, right? I'm not learning a lot about myself. All I'm doing is just really distracting me from me. So this is really important to make that distinction, because this way I don't want you to confuse playing a video game as a hobby. Because it could be. They do have creative elements in there, really logical elements as well. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this feeling of in the flow, that I get this hyper focus on this thing that I'm doing. And as I'm doing it, I'm really working with myself. I'm having a relationship with myself, and I'm enjoying that relationship with myself. It's the best way to describe that. I actually sew. That's one of my hobbies. I have multiple. Doing this podcast is another hobby. But if I think of sewing, and as I cut out the fabric, I get to feel the fabric, smell the fabric, and start sewing it and or constructing it and planning it out and sewing it and all that good stuff. All of it I'm doing with myself. And it's nice because I get to laugh at my own mistakes. I get to undo a seam and go back and sew it again. It's such a lovely interaction. I get to be patient with myself, feel the sense of accomplishment when I'm done with whatever it is I'm sewing. All of that is really nice. I'm really spending time with myself, and I'm doing it on purpose. It is a beautiful thing. So my work all day long is not a physical job, believe it or not. It's just a mental job. I sit, I'm listening, and we do the therapy thing. So interacting in the way that I do with my hobby, such as in sewing, it allows me to work that part of my brain that needs that stimulation, that needs to work with the hands and think about seams and lines and construction, things that I wouldn't really think about if I'm working with an individual in therapy. So I really do need that stimulation. It is a beautiful thing being in the flow, and I'm not the first one to talk about it. It's been said by many, and I've actually done an episode on the flow or working in the flow, which is called Follow Your Bliss. Stop working and follow your bliss. If you scroll down, you'll find that episode, listen to it, especially if you're having a hard time at work and not really finding any enjoyment in it. Instead of leaving the work, maybe you should just listen to that episode. Maybe it might help. I don't know. All right, so let's go back to hobbies. So distraction versus a hobby. I need you to know that very clearly. It is two different things. Let's not mistake them with the same thing. Why do we need hobbies? And there's plenty of literature and articles, especially psychology today, on reasons why we need hobbies. And all of them are fairly superficial, but if you wanted to get some good intensive reasons why, if you're that kind of, person, there's plenty available out there, especially journal articles, peer-reviewed stuff that you can find on hobbies and how they interact with your brain. But today I'm going to be presenting to you just some of the reasons, nothing fancy here, no numbers and no fancy business, but things that we can use today. All right. So the first reason why we want to have a hobby and what I found in people that did very well adapting to aging is it improves their functioning as they age, and it helps them live longer. Actually, plenty of research suggests that it helps people live longer when they have this relationship with themselves, with hobbies. And it makes sense to me. This is where I find my self-love. This is where I get rooted. When I go into that sewing room and I'm starting to plan stuff out, when I get inspired and I start to play it out, it meets a very important emotional need for me, a very emotional, mental stimulating need for me. And I don't want to deny that. So I can understand that people like that have much to live for and that enjoy living with themselves, enjoy that relationship with themselves. Because imagine if you got frustrated with you as you're doing a hobby, you won't really call it a hobby anymore. You'll be like, the hell with that, I'm not doing that. I've seen it where people toss, they toss stuff around. They're just not patient with themselves or intolerant with themselves as they are performing whatever hobby it is that they do. But for me, when I think of hobbies, people that have these wonderful hobbies, for example, gardeners, I don't see them throwing shears out and shit, or starting fights with the neighbors. And no, they're sitting there calmly working on their hobby, planting, pruning, all that good stuff that they do, digging their fingers into the dirt, being one with the dirt, with earth. Beautiful stuff there. That's what I see them doing. I don't see them starting a fight in the yard. So they know they have a good relationship with themselves. They're not saying, I'm not worthy of this time. I'm not worthy of sitting still with me and working with me. They're not making excuses why they're not worthy of it. Like, I can't possibly do it. I have all this stuff that I gotta do, and I gotta be productive, and a hobby is not productive. And it's like the only time we ever do anything is when it's productive somehow. Like it costs, my time is money, and it costs me money, and this hobby costs me more money than it is bringing me money. I mean, that's not the point of a hobby, is what I'm trying to say. All right. The next thing is that we've actually found plenty of research to suggest that hobbies protect against dementia. Isn't that beautiful? It makes sense to me. It really does. Many people that I've worked with in the clinical setting come in for therapy, probably the elderly population. I find that people that have this interesting relationship with themselves have hobbies, have interests. They just have things to talk about. They enjoy their time. They're very patient and tolerant with themselves. And their mind is amazing. I mean, they're sharp and focused. They're visual and spatial. Working with their hands and their eyes together is very beneficial for them overall. They are less likely to be depressed. And it makes sense once again. I mean, when you're performing this hobby, whatever it is, you are really, like I said before, engaging and strengthening that relationship that you have with you. You're enjoying you. You're not enjoying other people. You're enjoying you in that situation. Whether you're gardening, you're sewing, you could be collecting stamps, you like to bake, you like to draw, paint, all of those things. When you're in the flow of them, you really are enjoying yourself. So it makes sense that depression is not going to be a common thing for you, because you would know how to get out of it. You don't have this mentality like I got nothing to live for, and it's just like the complete distressing thinking pattern of there's nothing to live for, there's nothing good happening, there's not pessimism that you're living by here. It's just purely, simply integrating the self and enjoying all versions of you, all parts of you, in all areas, right? Also, we found, just to top it off for you in case if you need more reasons of why you need to have a hobby, is we found that it lowers blood pressure, improves physiology all over. People with physical types of hobbies tend to also have, a lower BMI overall, which is body mass index, lower fat that they carry and store within themselves, is the best way to say that. I don't even know if I said it right, but you understand me. It also improves overall heart functioning. This is pretty important. I think of people in my life that are aging, and when they are distracting quite a bit from themselves, they tend to have more physical illness. And this is my own experience, right, with people around me. And family members, I think, that are aging well tend to have more hobbies. And I gotta tell you, I think growing up, my family's really hardworking. Really hardworking. And so the idea of a hobby, I have one uncle that really engages in it, and I could see him growing as he's doing it. You know, he's not only painting, he's also writing poetry, he's writing a novel, he's doing amazing things. I mean, he's really enjoying that relationship he has with himself, exploring it within. He's not just working every day. But I also have the other side of my family, and I'm sending a lot of love to both sides. There's no one better or worse. It just is. That work a lot, and that they only perceive time as productive. And if it's not productive, then I need to be distracting, because there's no reason why I need to have a hobby or, stuff like that. So, and I grew up with both. Luckily for me, as a therapist, I get to see the outcome quite clearly in front of me of what people do and how they might age, and what kind of habits do they have that help them age well. And I'm just relaying them to you as I see it. So the next part I wanted to kind of get you started on is, what types of things are hobbies? And you know what? I know this sounds like, well, Tala, what do you mean? I mean, everybody collects coins and stamps and bakes. I hear you. But that's not what I mean by hobbies. You got to really go into exploring mode. When I first started on this path of what the hell do I do with my time, I really had to go Google other people's hobbies. I'm not kidding with you. This is serious business here. I Googled other people's hobbies, and some of them were far-fetched for me, but some of them may have even confirmed what I already do like, or hearing somebody else talk about what they love got me excited to feel this way about something. And, I have plenty of stuff that I get excited about. I mean, you guys won't believe the stuff that I can do with my time. And all of it, probably not as productive as people think it is. But this is the thing. It is stimulating for me. It meets a need for me. So I want you to know that there's no shame of you looking up what other people are finding exciting to them. And like I said before, just even watching people on YouTube talk about books and reviewing them, it's just, they get so excited about it, and inspires me. When I watch fashion shows on YouTube, I love to see the different styles and how open-minded people are and how creative they become just making clothes. We think it's just simple, easy construction, but when I look at that, I'm like, wow, amazing. So this is the thing. Get inspired by spending time with yourself. You are living this whole journey with you. You are with you wherever you go. And I need you to have a good relationship with you. And the practice of hobbies really strengthens that relationship you have with you. That self-acceptance, that I accept myself through thick and thin. When my dress that I just finished making is all wrong and I have to break it apart and do it again. All of it is nice, part of my journey. And this is the thing. I want you guys to remember and keep in mind that hobbies doesn't have to be done every day, 2-3 hours a day. I don't like putting time on it, but if you need time, you could do it whenever you are inspired to do that. But I know my itch. I can feel it within me that there's a time where I'm just like, okay, let me sit with myself and do something. I want to feel in the flow. So that's the time you do it. And you'll know it's a hobby, not because you just like doing it. It's because you really get into it. You're immersed and focused on this thing that you're doing, and you lose track of time, and it feels good to do it. And you're really sitting with yourself and becoming very consciously aware of you. And, it's a great thing. So it's not like, for example, reading. Reading is, people name reading as a hobby. I like to read, but I don't consider it necessarily a hobby for me. So I have to make sure I differentiate that for people. Just because I like to read doesn't mean it's like, oh my God, I got to do it all the time. No, I'm a quick reader, like a reference reader. Give me short and sweet. I like it. If it comes in a form of a romance novel, it'll be audio because I'm not purchasing a book with that. I'll be having a library full of romance novels. So let's not do that. Just work with what I got. Understand that it is phases. Sometimes our hobbies come in phases, but know when you get that itch to spend time with you, that itch to do something more, that you can find exciting and get some sort of fulfillment from, that isn't TV or isn't something distracting. We all have this energy. We all have it as humans. Please do not disregard it. I want you to take a look at what you like. Ask yourself these questions. What is it that I like to do? And if you don't know exactly what it is, that's okay. Go online and look up what other people are excited to do. You might find your answer there. Things that people come up with is amazing. The vast hobbies out there is just stunning. And it might involve other people or it might not. But I want you to know that you are with yourself everywhere you go. So this hobby is all about the relationship with you. All right. It's about time we talk about hobbies. I don't want you guys to take it lightly. I want you to start having this relationship with you. There's no better time than right the heck now. And remember, you don't got to do it all day. You're going to do it every day. You don't even have to say, oh, well, I have this hobby, but I just never do it. Listen, I go through phases. I don't hold myself with guilt if I'm not doing that hobby. So there comes a time where I sew for a few months straight, and then I'll stop and I'll come back to it later. Don't you worry. You just scratch that important itch you need to scratch, and don't worry about having guidelines to it or rules about it. Just don't ruin it. Keep it a hobby. Enjoy the hell out of it and do it in phases if you like. Know yourself, know your needs on the inside. Be aware of them so you can fulfill them. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I'm sending you love, light, and the inspiration for stimulation. This has been an episode of Drive-thru.